Hi everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're going to have a really gentle beginner yoga flow. For those of you who don't know yoga is a quieting of the fluctuations of the mind. I like to think of it as moving meditation. We focus on our breath while we practice the asanas, which are the postures. So I know a lot of you practicing at home may not necessarily have a mat or any other equipment. So I made this practice so that anyone can practice it at any time wherever you are. I grabbed a towel from my closet, and if you want to grab that just for your knees and a couple of the poses, that will work. You can also put out a blanket or a long towel. It's just if you're doing that on a wooden floor, be careful because you don't want it sliding around. So that is why I grabbed a small towel for my knees. I am going to perform my yoga on the floor, even though I do have a mat. So let's get into it together. We'll start seated in Virasana, which is hero's pose. It's sitting on our knees like Keone is here. So we're gonna just take a seat. I'm going to put my towel down. All right, I'm gonna put my knees on my towel. So just settle in. Bring your hands on top of your thighs. If you have tight hamstrings or calves or legs like Patrice, you can simply kneel. We won't be here too long, I promise. So close your eyes and start to focus on your breath. Inhaling and exhaling through your nose. Take long, slow, deep inhales. And try to spend the same amount of time on your exhales, all through your nose. And for the rest of practice, try to keep that breath in and out through your nose. Remember, you can always return to the breath if you're feeling tense in any pose. And you can always come out of a pose and rest, lay on your back, or choose a simple seated pose or child's pose if you feel uncomfortable at any time. So with our eyes closed, as we focus on the breath, maybe also just quickly set an intention, just something you want to hold on to in your mind for a moment. It might be something you want to accomplish in the practice, or something outside of the practice, or nothing at all. It's your choice. So just take a moment to be. And then flutter your eyes open. Inhale through your nose. Hold it at the top. And then exhale through your nose. Take another inhale. And exhale. Now I want you to simply bend your neck towards the right so you can kind of bring that right ear towards the right shoulder. Stretching out the left side of our neck. And come to center. Let's go the other way. Start to bring that left ear down near the left shoulder. And when you do this, try to keep your shoulders relaxed. You don't want to hunch that shoulder up to meet the ear. You just are gently allowing it to lower near the shoulder, and your shoulder stays where it is. Come back to center. Drop your head forward, tucking your chin in towards your chest. Nothing dramatic, just a gentle tuck. And on your next breath, bring your chin up, slightly look up. Just feel a little bit of extension here. Then come back to center. Bring your hands behind your back and clasp all 10 fingers together. Then pull those hands down behind you, opening up your heart a little bit. No need to jerk your chin up here or release your head back. You want to be looking towards the ceiling, but you're not all the way up. So you're just finding a gentle heart opener here. Find some width between the shoulders, front of the chest opens up. And on your next exhale, bow forward, bringing your forehead to the mat, bringing your hands, keeping them clasped, bringing them overhead. So this is a child's pose, but with our knees together, just flexing our spines a little bit. Stay here. On your next inhale, start to lift your head, lift your torso, come up to your seated position, and again, pull those arms slightly down behind you to open your heart. On your next exhale, bow forward, keep the hands clasped. One more time, coming down towards the mat, arms lift overhead, maybe coming more towards the front of the room. Be gentle with yourself and focus on the breath. Come back to center and release the arms. Move forward onto your hands and knees. We're going to come to tabletop position and make sure you've got your shoulders stacked right over your wrists and your hips are right over your knees. On your inhale, drop your belly, lift your gaze, and lift your hips for cow pose. Exhale as you round your spine towards the ceiling, tucking your chin, looking at your navel. This is cat. Inhale through your nose, drop your belly, lift your gaze for cow. Exhale through your nose as you round your spine and look down at your belly button for cat. Inhale for cow, dropping the belly, lifting the gaze, lifting the hips. Exhale for cat, rounding that spine, tucking the chin. Good, come to neutral. Find that neutral tabletop position. And from here, open your knees up a little wider and send your hips back and down onto your heels, keeping your arms stretched out in front of you. Bring your forehead down towards the mat or towards the floor, coming into child's pose. So if your knees are wide enough, you should be able to fit your rib cage down in between your thighs here. If it's uncomfortable to keep the arms stretched out in front of you, you can walk them beside your legs so that they're reaching towards the back of the room. It's a preference, whatever feels better in your body. Keep breathing through your nose, long, deep inhales, and slow, deep exhales. On your next inhale, push your hands into the mat as you lift your hips up and then move them forward and down, bringing them down to the floor. Then bring the forearms to the mat with your elbows under your shoulders, lined up right under there. Sphinx pose. So you'll find a slight back bend here. Push your forearms into the mat and really let your shoulders relax down. You don't want to hunch them. You don't want to really push them. You just want to find some nice, easy stability here. You can either gaze forward or down. Take another breath. And then push your hands into the mat as you start to lift your hips up. Then lift your elbows, walk your hands back just about one hand length, and then send your hips back and down onto your heels, coming back into child's pose and rest. Inhale and exhale. And continue to breathe. And child's pose is such a really nice resting pose. If you feel any stress at any time, you can always come to this pose and just release and relax into it. All right, on your next inhale, pick your hips up, then move them forward and down towards the mat. Walk those forearms out. Bring the elbows under the shoulders. Forearms are on the mat, coming back into Sphinx pose. Maybe push the tops of your feet into the mat here so you can lift those kneecaps up a little bit as well. Relax the shoulders as you push the forearms into the mat, finding this gentle back bend. And on your next inhale, push the mat away with your hands so you can start lifting your hips. Then lift your elbows, walk your hands back a little bit, and send your hips down onto your heels. Child's pose once more. Finding some gentle movement, moving through extension in our spines to some flexion in our spines. All right, on your next inhale, lift your hips up. Come into tabletop now. So shoulders right over wrists and hips right over knees. Tuck your toes under. So the bottoms of your toes are on the mat now. Really push the mat away with your hands and with your toes so you can lift your kneecaps up. And then send your hips up and back. And back is key here because you don't want to come into plank. You're coming into down dog. So it's an upside down V position with your body. Really push those hands into the mat and think about getting your chest a little closer to your thighs. Gaze down at the mat and release your head here. Let your head hang heavy. No tension in your neck. Maybe nod yes or no a few times. Put a deeper bend in both of your knees so you can lift the tailbone up even higher. So bend those knees. Push the mat away. Feet or hips with distance. If this is tight for you, you can always move those feet a little wider apart. Same thing in the shoulders. You can move the hands wider apart if your shoulders are tight here. Let's start walking our dog, finding a stretch in our hamstrings here. So bend the right knee and start to lengthen the left leg a little longer. And then switch as you bend the left knee and straighten the right leg. And switch again. Keep breathing. Keep that breath moving. And switch. And switch. Switch. Bend the right knee. Bend the left knee. Bend both knees. And try to now lengthen those heels towards the mat. They may touch, they may not. That's okay. Be where you are. Take one more breath here. And then bend your knees on your inhale. Lift those heels up. Look forward. Look at your hands. And then slowly walk your feet towards the front of the mat. Stepping your feet in between your hands, coming into a forward fold with your knees bent. Grab for opposite elbows with your hands if you can. And just relax in your forward fold. Maybe sway a little side to side. Keep a bend in your legs. Let your head hang heavy. No tension in your neck. Then release your elbows. And on your inhale, keeping your knees bent, start to slowly roll up one vertebra at a time, starting from the bottom to the top. Head is the last thing to lift. And then your arms come down by your sides, palms face forward for Tadasana, which is Sanskrit for mountain. This is our mountain pose, our foundational standing pose. All right, inhale, bring your arms overhead. On your exhale, hinge at your hips and bow forward. Bring your hands towards the mat. Inhale as you lengthen your spine, halfway lift up, looking a little bit forward on the mat. Exhale, fold forward again, bringing your head closer to your knees. On your inhale, with a flat back, lift your torso up, raise your arms above your head, and then exhale, bring your arms by your side. That's a half sun A, a half sun salutation, which is a series of movements. We'll do that once more. It's just such a nice warm up. Inhale, bring your arms overhead. Exhale as you hinge forward at your hips, moving into that forward fold, bring your hands down to the mat. Inhale as you lift up halfway, lengthen your spine. Exhale, fold forward again. And then on your inhale, slowly rise up to standing with a flat back as your arms come overhead. And then exhale, release your arms by your side. All right, inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, hinge and fold. Bend your knees here. Really plant your palms on the mat, so you bend your knees enough so you can do that. And then with the bent knee, I want you to step your left foot to the back of the mat. Keep your right knee bent. Now your left leg is straightened and you've landed on the ball of your back foot. Try to find stability in this position. You're in a crescent lunge pose. Bring your hands to your hips and see if you're stable there with your legs. If you're stable, you can lift your torso up. So keep that right knee bent, back leg is straight, and hips are squared towards the front of the room. With your hands on your hips, you can actually check here if your hips are tilting one way or another. They should be straight up and down. So if you find your hips tilting forward, try to bend the back knee a little bit so you can straighten them out and make them straight up and down. Just breathe. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale. Exhale as you bring your hands down to the mat, framing your right foot. From here, just release your left knee down and then untuck your left toes. Now, like before, find the stability in your legs, then bring your hands to your hips and lift your torso up for Anjaneyasana. In this pose, we have two right angles with our legs. So they're two L shapes. And again, you want your hips straight up and down here. So check for that. There's a different pose that people sometimes think this is, where they try to put their hips way down and show their flexibility. That's a great pose, that's lizard, but that's not what we're doing here. Here you want to stay center and try pulling both of your legs up and in so you can engage your core and feel the engagement in your glutes and in your abs. So just stay here. Keep breathing. On your next exhale, bring your hands, both of them, down to the mat on the inside of your right foot. So instead of framing it, your right hand comes to the inside of your right foot. Now push your hands into the mat as you tuck your back left toes under. Lift that left knee. Then slowly walk your hands a quarter turn to the left, and your back knee will turn out. All 10 toes should be turned out now, and you're in a low, wide squat. Bring your hands to your hips, lift your torso up, stay in this squat. This is temple or goddess. It's known by both. This builds a lot of strength in the legs here. This is really so good if you do a lot of sitting all day. So just breathe here. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. On your inhale, bring your arms overhead and then straighten your legs. Turn your toes so you're facing the front of the room again. And then come onto the ball of your back foot as you bend your right knee, coming back into that crescent lunge. Breathe here. If you're feeling unstable with your arms overhead, you can always bring them back to your hips like where we had them earlier. Otherwise, keep your arms overhead. Continue to breathe. Find that stability. All right, on your next inhale, I want you to step your back foot forward next to your front foot, but keep both knees bent. So you might have to do a couple steps. That's okay. Do a couple steps or one big step and come into chair pose. So both knees are bent. Feet can be apart or together. Just make sure if they're apart that your knees are not knocking in together. You want to keep the knees as wide as the feet. Let your hips sit back and down and keep the weight in your heels here, as if you could lift your toes off the mat. Wrap your ribs in so you use your core and point your tailbone down at the floor. One more inhale and exhale. Inhale, rise to stand, arms stay up. Exhale as you hinge at your hips, fold forward. Take that forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold again. Inhale with a flat back, rise up to a standing position, arms come overhead. Exhale, bring your hands by your sides for Tadasana, mountain pose. All right, push your weight into your right foot here. So we're going to start getting into our balance pose. Bring your hands to your hips. So with the weight in your right leg, start to lift up your left heel. Then turn your left knee out to the left and bring the sole of the left foot to the inside of the right ankle. So this is tree with our sole of our foot at our ankle. You can stay here if this feels good. This is a gentle variation. Another option is lifting the sole of that left foot a little higher so it's on the inside of your right calf. Third option is grabbing the left ankle and placing the sole of the foot at the upper inside part of your right thigh. All right, balance here, whichever variation you took. Feel what's good in your body. Just take that position. If you want to find a little more balance, maybe bring your hands to heart center. If that feels really good and stable for you, maybe lift your arms overhead. Try to find something to gaze at the wall in front of you, some immovable object. That's your drishti. That'll help you balance. If you want to take it one more level, try to look up at the ceiling. That takes a little more balance. And finally, for a really difficult pose, try to close your eyes. You'll see how much it changes when we close our eyes. Our balance completely changes. All right, continue to breathe in. On your next exhale, release everything down and stand in Tadasana, arms by your side. Good. Inhale, bring your arms overhead. Exhale, hinge and fold. Forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale as you fold. Plant your palms on the mat here as you bend deeper in your knees. Keep the bend in your left knee and step your right foot to the back of the mat. Now the right leg is straight, left leg is bent. Bring your hands to your hips. Stabilize your lower body and lift your torso up for crescent lunge. Inhale and exhale. Keep breathing. Inhale and exhale. Check for your hips. Are they up and down? Are they tilting? If they're tilting, you can always bend that back knee a little bit. Untilt your hips. Get them straight up and down, and then try to straighten that leg back out. All right, take one more breath here. And on your next exhale, bring your hands down to the mat, framing your left foot. Release your right knee onto the mat and untuck your right toes so the top of your foot is on the mat. Find your stability in your legs. Bring your hands to your hips and lift your torso up. You should have two right angles here, 90 degrees in both of your legs. So in your front leg, your knee is right over your ankle, and in your back leg, your hip is right over your knee. Really engage the glutes, engage the thighs, so you're feeling your left leg pulling towards your body in, and your right leg pulling up, and that'll really help you engage and feel that. Then bring your hands down to the inside of your left foot. Tuck your right toes under and push those right toes into the mat so you can lift up the right kneecap. Then take a quarter turn to the right, turning your right knee and your right foot outward, coming into this temple goddess squat. Bring your hands to your hips and lift your torso. Stay in this low squat, building strength. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. One more breath in this pose. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale, bring your arms overhead as you straighten your legs. Then take a quarter turn to the front of the room, turning your toes, turning your torso. Come onto the ball of your back foot, so your right foot, and then bend your left leg, coming into crescent lunge. You might have to step that back foot back a little more to make sure your left knee doesn't go beyond your left ankle. You want stacking, but you don't want it to go beyond the ankle. All right, breathe here in your crescent lunge. We're going to take another breath. Arms can be overhead, or if you want more stability, you can bring your hands to your hips. Then on your next inhale, step your back foot forward next to your front foot, keeping both knees bent for chair pose. Remember, if you have to take a couple steps to get there, that's totally fine. There's no right or wrong. All right. Weight is in our heels, really pulling that rib cage in, pointing our tailbone towards the mat. Maybe sink a little deeper. Try to lift that chest. Maybe bring those biceps more in line with your ears. One more breath, and then rise to stand. Bring your arms down by your sides. All right, hands come to hip. We're gonna do the other side tree pose. So this time, really try to get that weight shifted into your left leg. Then come up onto the ball of your right foot. You can turn your right knee outward and then place the inside of your right foot to the inside of your left ankle. This is option 1. Option 2, slide that right foot up a little higher so it's at the calf. Option 3, slide it even higher, maybe with the help of your hand, and place it on the upper inside of your left thigh. All right, if you've found your balance with your hands at your hips, maybe you want to try bringing one or both hands to heart center. If this feels good and you want to move on and try another balance, Maybe bring your arms overhead. Remember to gaze at that immovable object on the wall that just helps you with your balance, because it's something that you can just focus on. All right, if you feel good here, you can try looking up. And finally, you can try closing your eyes. Maybe you can do it for a moment, maybe not. It's okay. And then release. Let your right foot come down to the mat. Release your arms by your sides. So we're done with the standing series now. We're just going to inhale as we lift our arms overhead. Sit down into a chair pose. Can you lift up your heels? All right, bring your hips down even lower, 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 all the way down so your hips are right on top of your heels. And then simply lower your heels down, which will bring your hips down to the mat. You will be in a seated position. All right, so you should have landed with your soles of the feet on the mat, knees are bent. Walk your hands behind you with the fingertips pointing at your hips. Okay, from here we're going to take boat, or Navasana in Sanskrit. So you can bend your elbows a little bit, lift your chest up, find length here between your collarbones. So you really lift your chest up, get a long spine, and then lift your knees up, lift your calves, lift your shins, and you want your shins parallel to the mat here. Now you're working your core. You're already working it here. It's perfect to just stay right here. Option 2, stay there with your legs, lift your arms up so you're reaching them towards the front of the room. Remember, you can always move back to option 1. You don't have to stay in one position or stay in another. You can choose. Option 3, straighten your legs. Just do what feels good in your body. And then release, bending your knees, releasing your hands to the mat. Slowly roll down onto the mat. Knees are still bent, soles of your feet are on the mat, hands are by your sides. You want your knees a little bit behind where your ankles are right now, so that when we come up into bridge, you will stack your knee right over your ankle. Your torso naturally pushes your knees a little forward, so that's why we start a little bit behind. All right, so on your next inhale, start to peel up your hips, the bottom part of your back, your mid back, coming up onto your shoulders, pushing into the mat firmly with your feet, engaging your legs here. Your legs are doing the work. And then think of the energy moving forward towards your knees. You don't want to collapse all of that weight into your shoulders, so you want to think of the energy line moving down towards your knees. Knees are right over ankles. Just breathe here as we lift, really pushing those hips or up towards the ceiling. Take one more breath and then lower down to the mat. Bring your knees into your chest and give them a big squeeze. This Apanasana, wind removing pose. Nice big squeeze, good. And then open your arms to a T. So if you don't have a ton of space here, you can also cactus or goalpost your arms, where you have 90-degree angles in your arms with your elbows bent. So take whichever option feels good to you. With your knees still bent in towards your chest, drape both the knees together over to the right. And try to allow the left shoulder to really release and melt into the mat here, so you can feel a good spinal twist. Your gaze can either be up, or you can look over that left hand. Do what feels good in your neck. Continue to breathe. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Come to center with your knees. Drape both knees over to the left now, making sure you're trying to melt that right shoulder into the mat now. So both shoulder blades are rooting down, and your gaze can be up or out over that right hand. Take another breath. And slowly come back to center. If you want to give yourself one more big squeeze, wrapping your knees in, you can do so. And then lengthen your legs out on the mat. Bring your arms by your sides. Open your legs up so that your feet are about as wide as the mat. So if you're not on a mat, that's a little bit wider than your shoulders. And bring your arms out wide enough so that you have some space between the arms and the rib cage. Then melt the shoulders down. Let any tension in your abdomen go, or in your legs. And whatever breathing pattern you developed during the practice, just let that go and return to normal breath. Just whatever is your norm, your resting breath. Close your eyes. And we are going to find some peace and tranquility in our final resting pose, Shavasana. And slowly start to bring some awareness back into your body, into the space. Maybe just recognize the expansion and contraction of your rib cage as you inhale and as you exhale. And then bring your hands in towards your heart and place them on top of your chest, one hand on top of the other. Bend your knees, bringing your soles of your feet to the mat or to the floor. And gently roll to your left side, bringing your hands under your head like a pillow, coming into fetal position. Keep your eyes closed as you bring your hands to the mat and push yourself up to a seated position, any position that feels good in your body. And bring your hands to rest wherever they might fall, whether that's on your thighs, your knees, or the center of your lap. Just let it be natural. Take a deep inhale through your nose and hold it at the top. And then exhale through your nose and hold it at the bottom. One more time, inhale through your nose and hold it there. And then exhale through your nose and hold. This time, inhale as you bring your arms overhead. Bring the palms to touch. Exhale, bring the hands down in front of your heart center. Maybe return to your intention if you set one at the beginning of practice. Maybe think of whether you want to set an intention now if you didn't then, or if you did, if it's completed, or if it's something that you're still going to hold on to. No right or wrong answers, just be where you are. Thank you so much for practicing with us today. Namaste.